you all for being here today. This is, to reach for a sports analogy, this is another, today marks another first down in the city's drive to becoming the primary port for offshore wind in the Northeast, if not in the United States. That's our aspiration here, and it's the aspiration we share at both the local and the state level. As we've discussed so many times before, we here in New Bedford see the prospect of offshore wind as central to our economic future, really to the city's future viability. So many other cities in the United States of roughly our size would love to have the opportunity and the assets relevant to the opportunity that we have here with respect to offshore wind. It's an industry that has matured over the last 20 years in Northern Europe and is about to come to America. And what we're undertaking here in New Bedford is the building of a new economic base for the southeast region of the state, and it's going to happen right here. Our aspiration is to become much like those European ports that have prospered in the last 10 years, places like Cuxhaven and Bremerhaven, Germany, and Esbjerg, Denmark, and many others. And why is New Bedford in such a great place? Well, it's because of what we have here and what's out there. New Bedford is a deep water port, and that deep water port is the reason why New Bedford exists in the first place. First, for our whaling fleet. We're the epicenter of the world whaling fishery in the 19th century. We are that deep water port supports the biggest commercial fishing industry or commercial port in the United States right now, and its future is in offshore wind. We're near the wind, and that makes all the difference in the world. 25% of the nation's wind reserves lie just south of Martha's Vineyard. The Cape Wind is going to be very close. We've got a seafaring workforce. We have all the right infrastructure around our port, and thanks to the leadership of the Patrick and Murray administration, we will have soon a state-of-the-art, purpose-built marine assembly terminal to construct first Cape Wind and then hopefully many wind farms after that. So we're in a terrific position to really spring ahead, but so much of it depends on partnerships at all levels of government. It really makes a difference, especially in a brand new industry like the one we have here, where there's so much uncertainty, to have state and local leaders walking in lockstep with one another. There are folks in the industry, developers, as well as supply chain companies, who are looking at places to set up shop up and down the East Coast and in the Great Lakes region. And what they want to know is that there is the right frame of mind and state government as well as the city government that will support the development of this industry. And that I can tell you unequivocally here in New Bedford, we see offshore wind as our future, and we stand solidly behind it. And thank you to the Patrick and Murray administration, particularly Secretary Rick Sullivan, for seeing it the same way. And what we're seeing playing out right now is really the heart of the Patrick Murray administration's economic development strategy. And that strategy is this: when it comes to smaller cities in the Commonwealth, their aim is to support what we're trying to do. We're in an industry right now, we're aspiring to be part of an industry right now, build an industry right now in which we have certain advantages. And the state sees this as an opportunity to support a city rebuild itself, to take control of its economic future. And that's what we're doing. And Secretary Sullivan, we can't thank you enough for all the leadership that you have shown along the way. It's been a complicated process. And this cooperation agreement today, which deals with a handful of issues, which I'll touch upon briefly, really is just another milestone along the way, and a way to signal to the market that we mean business here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and we mean business here in the city of New Bedford. And it's your leadership and your ability to tackle these complex issues that has really put us together in a terrific position. Getting us here today was a collective effort, and there are many folks to thank. In addition to Secretary Sullivan, let me thank the leadership of Alicia Barton, the CEO of the Mass CEC, which is a quasi-governmental entity that was created a few years ago by the legislature for projects like this and others. In Massachusetts, the Commonwealth Governor Patrick recognized that the state has to be at the forefront of the development of renewable energy, and where else but New Bedford or should those efforts be focused? And Alicia, thank you so much for jumping in with both feet in your period in the job. It's really made a big difference in making things move. This was a complicated document in many respects. It deals with the land assembly around the site, as well as future business development, workforce training, and management of the site in the long run. And I want to thank the state's man on the ground here, Bill White from the CEC, for all of his his insight into the process, but also all the hard work he's done. Bill, you've done a great job, and really do appreciate the partnership that we have with you. Counselor Gary Davis, another real super talented lawyer, but who brings a set of skills far beyond just you know the details of a contract. Gary's been in the thick of it for a long time now, and has really deserves a tremendous amount of credit for bringing us here to this day. Gary, really appreciate all the hard work on your end. I'm up here with Senator Mark Montigny, Representatives Tony Cabral, and Paul Schmidt, who have played an enormous role in the state legislature in making sure that whatever needs to happen in the state legislature, whether it's funding, whether it's even somewhat arcane things like property transfers and the like, that they make it happen. They've stood ready to support this project in any way, because they see it the same way that everybody else here does, and that is this is a huge part of New Bedford's future. I want to thank our team for all their months of hard work, our quarterback, Matt Morrissey, my Chief of Staff, Neil Mello, and City Solicitor John Markey, as well as Executive Port Director Jeff Steeb, and Deputy Port Director Ed Washburn, for all their help in putting this together today. This document is, and you guys have heard me say this before, we have an immensely talented team here in New Bedford that is really driving the city's economic agenda very hard, and is really making a huge difference. What this document does is it just lays the groundwork for, or sets out the ground rules for how the city will interact with the state with respect to efforts in the building of the terminal, and business development, and as well as workforce development, and many other things that might come up along the way. But more than that, and this somewhat bears repeating, it signals to everybody else, everybody who's out there in this industry, that New Bedford is on top of things, that New Bedford and the Commonwealth together are way out in front of everybody else in America when it comes to readying itself for this industry and readying itself to build this industry in this place. If you are in the offshore wind industry in the years to come, you will conclude, I think, through efforts like this, that you've got to be in New Bedford. Much in the same way that larger tech companies say, you've got to have a presence in Silicon Valley if you're going to be in this business, or if you're in biotech, that you've got to have some standing in East Cambridge. When it comes to offshore wind, we want people to think about New Bedford in the same way, but it can only happen with the great support we're getting from the state. So with that, we're going to sign these in a moment, but I want to make sure that everybody has a chance to weigh in, and that I don't suck all the oxygen from the room. Secretary Sullivan, thank you so much for everything you've done. Would you please come on up? And
thank you, Mayor. And let me echo the Mayor's thanks to everybody that he mentioned as part of both the city's team and the state team. Everybody has really worked extremely well together here, and this truly is a partnership. And the Mayor has driven those issues from the city perspective with regards to this partnership, understanding that building the port is one thing, operating it is another, and having the benefits that come from having a one-of-a-kind port that can service the offshore wind industry is extremely important to the future and the economic development of the future of New Bedford. So I want to thank him and congratulate him for being a great partner here, and also to the city councilors that have taken some tough votes. Day in and day out, the votes that happen on the floor of a legislative body may be somewhat overlooked, but they are difficult votes because you are committing assets and resources of the city for the future. And really, the benefits of that vote and the benefit of the leadership of the mayor and the city council may not be seen for a number of years down the road, but it is that investment in the future that is important. And it is exactly that reason why Governor Patrick, some 2 years ago, and a number of times has been back to the city along with Lieutenant Governor Murray to promise that this project would in fact happen. This strategic investment in offshore wind in New Bedford, in the region down here, and including all of the cities and towns around New Bedford, that investment would be made. So we're here today to sign the MOU, but more importantly to move and continue the strategic investment that the governor promised in offshore wind. And while the benefits to investing in renewable energies are clear from an environmental standpoint and clear from an energy security standpoint, make no doubt about it, this is an investment in the economic future of New Bedford and the region. And it's a $100 million commitment. And the agreement today shows how we will move forward as partners with the city in seeing the benefits of that investment come to fruition. So it is again, as the governor always says, we can sit here and choose to do nothing, or we can make the investment. We can do something to control our future. We can invest in the next generations, and that's what this project is really all about. And we have also other great partners, and certainly the legislative delegation that is standing here behind me is an important part of that, because the $100 million is, for the most part, bond funds that work its way through the legislature, and Senator Montigny and Representative Cabral and Schmidt, they touch that process in a very important way as it moves through the legislative process, not only in taking their votes, but providing the leadership to move those dollars forward, and providing the oversight of those dollars to make sure that those investments are being spent wisely. And everybody here understands that it's to create local jobs and to see companies come to New Bedford and invest and be part of the supply chain, not only to the port project, but to Cape Wind, and more importantly, as we look into the future, for the other offshore wind that's going to happen. Because it should not be lost on anybody that this is going to be a unique port. This is a unique opportunity, and it is not just to service Cape Wind. It will service the other offshore wind that will happen up and down the East Coast. And it was designed in such a way that it could be able to do cargo shipping at the facility as well. So we've kind of hedged our bets, if you will, here, and tried to make this a multi-purpose port. Again, investing in the future, so that, as the governor said some 100 years ago or so, New Bedford lit the world with whaling, and they're going to light the world in the future with its investment in renewable energies and in the port here in the city of New Bedford. So on behalf of Governor Patrick and Lieutenant Governor Murray, I am very pleased to be here to move one more step closer to realizing a promise that the governor made a couple of years ago. So thank you, and thanks everybody for the leadership and the parts that you've played.
All right, thank you, Secretary Sullivan. I'd like to call up to the lectern Alicia Barton, who is the director of the Mass Clean Energy Center, and who is, as I said before, has really taken the bull by the horns and all the things that organization is tasked with doing, but especially here in New Bedford with the South Terminal. Alicia?
Thank you. And I don't want to duplicate the comments of the mayor and the secretary, so I'll try and just be very brief to focus on specifically the perspective from the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center. And as you mentioned, Mayor, Mass CEC was created in 2008 as part of the Green Jobs Act, specifically focused on economic development through expansion of the clean energy industry. That is our mission at Mass CEC, is to create a robust clean energy industry. And really, I think when we look at that mission and even building on the significant growth we've seen in recent years, the single biggest opportunity to further that mission is to create an entirely new industry around offshore wind here in Massachusetts. And we know that that opportunity will be centered here in New Bedford through our partnership with the city and investing in this particular facility that will be an effort to put New Bedford on the map globally as a center of clean energy innovation. And we've had a little bit, as complicated as this project is and as challenging as it is to work on, we've had a similar experience at Mass CEC where we made a similar investment in infrastructure and building a world-class wind technology test center in Charlestown, Massachusetts. And the results we've seen from that are phenomenal. We have built that facility, and now we have companies from all over the globe that are our customers. And it really does show that when you make these direct investments in infrastructure and in building the type of shared support for the industry, that you can see that same type of success. What's exciting about this particular opportunity, though, is that this time around we have a real partner to work on that with, and you know, as the entity that's out in front of the permitting and building this facility and will contract for construction, we are well aware of how complicated a project it is, but also well aware of the strong support that we have from the mayor here and from his administration, and I want to thank you, Mayor, for your kind words about our team. This is something that is a high priority for us, but we know every time we talk to your team and have the monthly meetings that we have here, led by Bill White and all the other folks that participate in that effort, that this is a high priority for you as well, and we feel that support directly. And so this MOU is a really great embodiment of that partnership and talks about the ways in which we will work together. And building on the collaboration we've had to date, I think we're very excited to see this project go under construction, hopefully very soon. And that'll be you know, one more step in the milestone of making Massachusetts and New Bedford, Massachusetts a truly global leader in clean energy. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much, Alicia. As I said, you know, we couldn't do this without strong support from the legislature and from our local delegation, who sees our prospects in offshore wind as central to our long-term economic viability as a city and as a region. And so I wanted to ask our delegation to come on up and offer their thoughts on not only the cooperation agreement, but offshore wind generally. So I'll start with Senator Montigny.
Thank you, Mayor. At this point in the agenda, it's more exciting to watch the signing than it is to listen to speeches that are destined to repeat what's already been said. But however, I will do that anyway, mainly because it's so exciting to be part of this. I would say that I'd speak for Tony and Paul, but I know they'll also offer words. But I will say this, as the senator from this delegation charged with making sure these things are paid for, but that the money is spent wisely. It's a great honor for me, particularly to work with Tony and Paul. Tony for many years through many administrations in the State House. Paul recently, but a real champion. I don't even know how many homes and constituents you actually represent in New Bedford, but you show up all the time and you care deeply, seriously. I mean, under redistricting, he picked up a small piece of the city, but you wouldn't know it by his dedication to the city, so I appreciate it. And I mean, I don't think I need to say much about Tony's work. He and I partner on, it seems like everything when it comes to job creation, and there's a simple but sad reason for that. The federal government long ago stepped away from its role in this stuff. Generally, there's still some good funding that comes through from time to time, but generally speaking, the old days of the federal government paying most and the state and local governments making up the difference is past. Cities like New Bedford can't drive economic development with local funding. The property tax base isn't broad enough, and that's where the state steps in. So whether it's tens of millions and as much as $100 million for the South Terminal project, the funding of commuter rail, the work on Route 18, the revitalization of downtown, the north end, the south end, all of the port work, it has been a partnership, and I can't say enough about the workings we've had with this mayoral administration. John, thank you. I appreciate the partnership. It's great to have that you convinced Matt to stay. We've had a number of years working with Matt Morrissey and Derek and others at the city level. It's also been a great partnership with the City Council, but at the end of the day, whether it was the enabling legislation for the center or the creation of the Seaport Advisory Council and the bonding, hundreds of millions of dollars has come through the legislature. And although, as I said, it would be tempting to say ditto and sit down, I need to make sure we, on days like today, remind folks that it is difficult. Even the home rule for the land transfer on this project became difficult and required a tremendous effort by the administration and the delegation. At the end of the day, it costs money. So when folks are difficult and critical of earmarking and of economic development through state resources, they should realize that they have not only a delegation that has probably earmarked more money for economic development in the city of New Bedford than any delegation that I know of in Massachusetts, and I'm proud of that. But there's a second point. It isn't just about spending and celebrating and signing and ribbon cuttings and groundbreakings. It's spending the money wisely to leverage private investment. I have a very critical view of government's role in economic development. So if Tom Davis comes to me and says, we need a tax credit because this manufacturer might do well, will you help us pick and choose winners? I would say no. In fact, companies like Evergreen Solar never should have received a nickel of taxpayer money. Tom Davis comes to me and says what Matt Morrissey does, what about providing state resources to leverage private sector investment through infrastructure? It's easy. So we put in a PWEG grant for a road, and Tom and his private sector folks create thousands of jobs. We put money into Route 18, we open up and tie in one of the nicest renaissance in the country in terms of an arts and cultural renaissance downtown to one of the most beautiful working waterfronts in the country. If you say pick and choose winners and losers in the clean energy business, it's wrong. We shouldn't do it. But you say to us, as this administration did, what about bonding for infrastructure with the leverage to create hundreds, if not thousands, of private sector jobs, and let the winners and losers fall where they may. Let's not choose the issue or the flavor of the month in economic development, but let's look at it as a policy directive, like it is when you take a city like New Bedford with high unemployment but a great manufacturing base, provide X number of millions of dollars for state resources. Again, downtown New Bedford's a great example. We bonded millions. Everything that was predicted in the plan when we did it has come true, and now it's the private sector takes over. Folks come in and buy places, they fix places, they spend money. That's exactly what will happen at South Terminal. It's wonderful that it's clean energy. I think it's great that there's a tremendous benefit to the environment, but at the end of the day, government's role with taxpayer money isn't to pick and choose those winners and losers. It's simply to say, we have a chance to leverage money with the private sector and create jobs, and I think this project is, because of that, one of the more exciting that we've participated in, doing our job, earmarking that money and bonding that money. So I'm pleased to be a partner in that effort. It's exciting for the city that I grew up in.
Great, thank you so much, Senator Montigny. Let me introduce also Representative Tony Cabral, who really distinguishes himself as someone who really gets into the details on these projects, because he realizes just how important this project in particular is to the future of the region. It's in his district. He understands it better than anybody, and he's been there for this project and for the development of offshore wind from the start. So Tony, would you come up and offer your views?
Thank you, Mayor. It's exciting as well for me to be here. I don't want to delay the signing. I think this is exciting. As the Mayor said, this really sets the rules going forward. How the state and the city will create the partnership that is needed in order to make this project really the kind of project that we all are hoping for, one that will create jobs in the hundreds, possibly in the thousands. But I think it's important, this signing today is important because it really sets the conditions and the partnerships between both the state and the city, and in essence is respecting and protecting not only the city of New Bedford and its residents, but also the taxpayers of the Commonwealth, since they are footing the bill, which we are part of those taxpayers as well in the city. But I think it's important to set those in place. So I think this agreement today and this signing today will certainly move that forward in making sure that both the city is protected and the state is protected as well. I mean, don't kid yourself. This is a major investment, $100 million in one particular location, in one particular city, even though it's going to create stimulation around jobs and activity in the private sector, not only in the city, but in the region and in the state as a whole. But it is a tremendous commitment, and I think we all proud of. We all been there from day one. I think the administration and the mayor's done the right thing in pushing the agenda forward to make sure we have in place not only this agreement, but the working partnership going forward. That's critical, because the time frame that we have to work with in this particular project to make sure we capture the first offshore wind facility such as Cape Wind, it's important. So we work with a very tight schedule here, 18 months construction preferably. Let's hope we can meet that. But again, let me thank CEC, as the mayor has done so. In particular, also Secretary Sullivan has been a tremendous partner on this, making sure the administration keeps its part of the bargain of making the issues moving forward, so we can get to this day and to the following days that we're going to need to make this project a reality. So, Secretary, thank you very much. Say thank you to the governor. I'll say thank you personally when I see him next time. I think I'm seeing him this week. I think he's trying to lobby me for something. So I think I have a meeting scheduled with him. So I'll thank him personally on that particular meeting this week. And you know, those in the city who've been working, making sure this day and this agreement was in place. You know, we have many investments on the part of the state. This is a significant investment. The next one is South Coast Rail. We're still trying to work through those details and the nuances of that. And I think this legislative delegation, Paul and Bob and Bill Strauss and Chris Markey, but in particular led by my good friend and my constituent, Senator Montigny, as our leader in terms of delegation. It's been wonderful working all these years with him. He really understands it, and he knows how to work. So the partnership that we have, not only with the city, with the state, but within the delegation, is really has been very rewarding for me, and I think it's been tremendously rewarding to the residents of this city, which I am proud of and represent them every day up in the State House. So this is exciting. Let's just one more step on this process. Thank you, Mayor, again, for inviting us also to be part of this signing. And let's go to the next level. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Representative Cabral. And then let me ask Representative Paul Schmidt to come up. And Senator Montigny is absolutely right. Although Representative Schmidt is now, for the first time, represents part of New Bedford. He has been there all the way. He's asked me every time I see him, what can I do for the city? And you know, that's just music to my ears, Paul. So come on up and please offer your contribution.
Thank you, Mayor. That would be precincts 1, D, E, and F. This is very exciting. The jobs that will be created are good-paying jobs, the type of jobs that can support a family, and they won't go offshore. And we're lucky to have an aspirational mayor with courage and conviction. We're very lucky to have the Patrick Murray administration, Secretary Sullivan, Clean Energy Center, Governor Patrick, Lieutenant Governor Murray have spent more time down here than any other pair of leaders in memory. Tony, I'm very happy that you mentioned South Coast Rail, because the South Terminal has to be connected to the rest of Massachusetts. And it's no secret that our roads and bridges are deteriorating, and the less said about our rail connection, the better. But how can you be connected by rail over a track bed that can't support a train going faster than 5 miles an hour? So we have to make investments in our infrastructure, and that will require an increase in revenues. So over the next 60 days, the legislature will be discussing an increase in revenues, and we'll have to find a way to make these kinds of investments. And I hope that all of you will support us when we make decisions that will be difficult decisions, that will be decisions that likely may affect your pockets. But as you can tell, they're necessary to capitalize on the future potential of the South Terminal. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you, Rep. Schmidt, for those comments, and thank you for not using the T word in your remarks. So we can go to the signing ceremony. Secretary Sullivan, I just want to point out to you that the pins that we'll be using today are made from recycled material. We are very green here in New Bedford, as you know, and getting greener by the day. So why don't we go ahead and get to the task.